Oh, excuse me, studio is live. Max are up. Good morning, Lagos, and good morning to every one of you tuned in to Smooth 98.1. Today is the 9th of March 2020, and it's time for us to get into freshly pressed 981 with detailed analysis provided by analysts in the studio. We have Tunde Okufi, his name as Tunde Okufi, but on Twitter he's at Bigkufs. Good morning, Tunde.
On Valentine.
Good morning. And Mr. C is at Mr. C, Mr. C on Twitter. Good morning.
Good morning, Valentine. Good morning, guys. Good
Welcome.
morning, Lagos. Have a fruitful and prosperous week.
Fantastic. And Cheta Nwaeze is in the studio as well. He's at Chxta, that's CHXTA on Twitter. Good morning, Cheta.
Good morning.
Welcome. All right, let's go into the details of the story. But first, WhatsApp number is 0809 444 0981. That's 0809 444 0981 for messages. On Twitter, we're at Smooth981FM. The hashtag is freshly pressed 981. And if you're following us on YouTube or you're not, please subscribe to that YouTube channel, Smooth981FM Lagos, and watch. The first story is for you, Cheta. 400,000 may go as TRCN begins nationwide screening. Sorry, that's Mr. C, pardon me. As TRCN, that's Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, will today begin a nationwide screening of teachers in both public and private primary and secondary schools. Your thoughts on the progress of this work?
Okay, so this is about time. Now, the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria is embarking on a nationwide screening exercise, which will commence today. The objective of this exercise is to weed out teachers who are deemed unqualified to teach students either at the primary school level or the secondary school level. Now, this exercise basically will be conducted by teams in each state. There are only 3 states being excluded: Adamawa, Yobe, and Borno. Now, it begs the question of why, for a simple exercise like this, you quote security challenges, but for an elections can hold. That's a different story. Now, for each state, the team will be headed by a professor from a university of education or a provost of a college of education. Now, basically, what they're going to be asking is, you show your teacher's license and evidence of registration with the TRCN. That's it. Now, I have my doubts as to whether this is sufficient to determine whether a teacher is qualified to teach students either in the primary school and secondary school level, because we've had instances in the past where teachers with these qualifications could not read simple English sentences. I'll take it back. When Governor Shomole was in charge of Edo State, he conducted an exercise similar to this, and there was a teacher who could not read an affidavit she supposedly deposed to. Now, the shocking thing is 400,000 teachers are expected to be weeded out. And we're estimated to have 1.5 million to 2 million teachers. Now, these 400,000 teachers, when they're weeded out, what happens to the students they were teaching? But they were put in charge of classes. They were teaching students. When you take them out, who's going? That gap is too much.
So, I mean, was the gap ever filled? Because if they are not qualified from the
public school.
I've been to a few.
Okay.
And then two.
The sessions are filled with gaps.
20 years ago.
No.
Sessions are filled with gaps. Nothing happening.
Yeah. So this speaks to a larger problem. We do not have the right number of teachers. We do not have the right quality of teachers. And it is estimated that we have a teaching deficit gap of 250,000, which we need to fill each year for the next couple of years. And currently there are about 13 million children out of school. So okay, Cheta has told me the new figure is 15 million. So beyond this exercise, what is the plan? And we would love the authorities to put forth a plan to show how they can resolve this issue.
Just a quick detour here. I'm not worried about the 15.2 or so million children out of school. I'm worried about the 20 million in public school system. Because if you've ever interacted with illiterates and semi-illiterates, it's actually easier to interact with the illiterates than the semi-illiterates. just a word about the quality of the education they're getting.
All right. Thank you, Mr. C. Cheta, I'll come to you for the next story. NCDC, that's the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, they yesterday said that 23 suspected cases of coronavirus, COVID-19, have been identified in Edo, including the index case in Lagos, and then Ogun, FCT, and Kano states. What are your thoughts on this? Even in the face of 4 scientists over the weekend coming up to say that they have possible solutions for both Lassa fever and coronavirus.
Um, Removing scientists who have not had their work peer reviewed from this conversation, I don't think it's necessary to talk about them. Get your work peer reviewed, and then we can talk. I think it's important to point out that there was some misrepresentation in the reports that initially came out when various newspapers, and I think it's fair to call out, especially the Vanguard, which is a national paper and should not be making such mistakes. They passed the report off as if there were 23 new cases. It was until the head of the NDC's, the Center for Disease Control, gave his press conference and made it very clear that it was through the contact tracing system. We also had some people earlier who had coming from outside the country. They were isolated immediately and tested, and then the test returns negative. So it's in this particular coronavirus thing, it's important to handle the news very delicately, and to ensure that it is only proper information that comes out. So again, I'll reiterate, there's no need to panic yet. Nigeria is handling this thing very, very well, and for me, it was a matter of national pride a few days ago that Nigeria published the genome sequence of the coronavirus in the Italian that is here. I mean, even the World Health Organization acknowledged and praised the country for its handling thus far, and acknowledged it because the Nigeria publishing the genome sequence of that and publishing it in an open source manner enables other scientists all over the world to pick it up and then help in finding a cure or a vaccine. So Nigeria is playing its beats very well so far. And I think that the people in charge of the authorities in charge of the Center for Disease Control, NCDC, realize that our main strength is in this preventative measure, in identifying, that's in tracing, identifying, quarantining, and isolating. That's our main strength. Because if it goes out and the thing gets out in the wild, then all bets are off. And it's not, as Italy in the so-called developed world has shown, it's not necessarily a Nigerian thing anymore. This is a new virus that nobody has seen before, so people are freaking out. You can see the chaos that is beginning to ensue even in the US. Italy is clearly chaos. The Italians have had to lock down Lombardy. That's their richest and most populated region. They've had to lock it down. It's like locking down the Lagos Ogun axis, because that's Nigeria's richest axis. There were videos that emerged of when the Italian government announced that they would lock down Lombardy. People escaping, like it was kind of like escape from Alcatraz or something. People were escaping from the region. So the Chinese had quite a lot of discipline in their own locking down process. The Italians have not. So it is possible that some of those people will spread the thing even more. So we have done very well. We should realize that passing off rumors or misrepresented stories, or I hate to use the word, but fake news, is likely to create more panic. And panic is the bigger risk than the actual virus itself at this point in time. That's what we need to know.
Well, looking at it politically, Cheta, wouldn't it be a no-brainer for Nigerian government to see this as an incentive to further support the health sector in Nigeria?
The Nigerian government has bigger problems now. Yeah. Overnight, all prices crashed to $32 per barrel. Our budget benchmark is still 57. We are up creek without a paddle.
And Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala has been appointed in the Presidential Economic
I
Council.
don't care about Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala at this point in time. She's South Africa's problem. My problem in a crisis situation, which is what we have entered, is the quality of people who are in charge. And the quality of people who are in charge in Nigeria right now is very low. So we are up, as in,
I get it. All right, Tunde, let me come to you as well. Talking edu, we went from education to health. Let's get back to education. There are two core areas in an economy. Now, ASU is set for strike, maintains opposition to EPIS, still taking a hard stance against the federal government to stop salaries of lecturers who've not enrolled in the integrated payroll and personal information system. What is there a new reason why they're taking this stance, or is it just still the hard line that we've known about since?
No, it's the same position. It's the same position that they've threatened from day one, that they won't enroll or they won't support this as a union. They won't support it as a union, and if the government doesn't change its position, that they will embark on a strike. And this is on the grounds that they say it affects or it tampers with the tenets of university autonomy, which is, to say, is a fair point on the one hand, but then also I believe that your employer also has the right to stipulate how stipulate tools for you to use and how he intends to pay you and what platforms you need to be you need to be on. Now the government's decision or statement, now the strike, they say, will be preceded by the government refusing to pay them in February. The government says for those who have merged, which is the interesting thing, 50%, it emerges that 55, whereas that now 55% of lecturers have actually gone to register, which indicates that, in a sense, that ASU in itself, within its ranks, are not united, or are not united, and they're fighting a losing battle. If more than half of your members have gone ahead to register on the platform, you're not in a strong negotiating position. If 5%, 10%, goodness, even if 20%, as high as 20% perhaps had registered and 80 hadn't, that would have left them in a much stronger negotiating position with the government. But over half have registered. It sort of chips away. It's an indication that to the government that just give it some time, and everyone will fall in line. Beyond it showing the lack of unity maybe within their ranks as well, it's also that it's a necessity. These guys need the income. Salaries, prospects for lecturers are not great globally, anyway, generally. So lecturers generally globally have complaints. I mean, if you look at the UK to the US, you'd find them complaining about zero-hour contracts, a bunch of things. But Nigerian lecturers have it even much worse, especially as the sector is deprived of investment, at least in those climes. The higher institutions receive a lot of investments, and it's those institutions who are trying to manage their costs that go down this route. But in this instance, the universities are deprived of investment. The lecturers have suffered. Many of them have had to take multiple jobs, which is part of the reason where a lot of people are speculating that they're kicking against this, because this would bubble some of that up. So many questions, but it's the same stance that ASU has maintained, that the federal government needs to back down. Both need to come to the table and arrive at some.
That table seems to have a lot of contradicting information. Like you alluded to, Tunde, it seems like the ASU house is divided against itself. First, they came up with the reason that federal government, the EP system does not include their own system. They should have actually a stake where they can contribute to forming that structure. Yep. And then later they came out to say, oh, there are some arrears that have been owed. That is why they are not meeting the federal government on the middle ground.
This federal government owes them arrears.
And then the UNN ASU chairman says, oh, this EP system was created as a centralized system that the government is putting together to run, to run the Nigerian infrastructure when it's domiciled abroad. That it's an Apple created system. That's
so it's argument versus counter argument. No, for the government, you can make arguments that, I mean, we have data. Let me not start calling names. We have data centers in Nigeria that can host it, and I would like to argue that this is not mission critical data. If the DB is down or the system is down for an hour or two a day, it's not going to kill anybody.
If ASU wants to be really autonomous, they should go the full hog. Autonomy for the universities. Go and find your money.
Yeah, but the
End
truth
of
is,
story.
even government won't let them.
Huh?
You know, that's the truth. The government
You'd be
won't let them.
surprised at how much government will be willing to let go once oil sustains at $30 a barrel
Yeah,
for
of
6
course,
months.
of course. It needs to. A bunch of things need to happen for us.
Why
to
do I
get
have
to
a
that
feeling
place.
that this might be a conversation we'll revisit? What you just said.
Oh, definitely.
We will
We
revisit
will,
it.
man. Everybody, welcome to the new.
It's the new reality.
welcome.
Saudi Arabia and Russia are going to go at it for a long time. Because
Yes.
Russia's stated geopolitical aim is to ensure that American shale producers are put out of
Other
business.
business.
End of story.
And it's happening
But-
already.
So
but
they are
guys,
going. So
it's
they are
just-
going to sustain this for a long time. Whether it will be, but oil is not going to get to 50 for a while.
I don't see it on the sheets. I don't know why. Or maybe I miss it. But
No, the
truth
news
is,
broke overnight. So
the truth is, it's a cycle.
no Nigerian newspaper has it yet. It's as in the oil price crash happened at 5:33 a.m. this morning,
Yes.
Nigerian time.
Yeah.
That's a 4:30 GMT
Yeah.
on the London Stock Exchange.
All right, following the developments, there seems to be a discrepancy in the authorization or approval of contracts in Imo states. Well, for the past administration, this conversation is what we'll visit Mr. C. Daily Times says that a member representing Idiato North and South Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives, one Rep. Pascal Obi, disclosed that contractors did not sign contract agreements in most of the contracts awarded by the Okorocha administration. Also, because some of them are supposed to have some sort of high-level documentation to the contracts awarded to billions of naira, did not have that. But further details by you and analysis, please.
Okay, so in Imo State, there's a Judicial Commission of Inquiry which is currently sitting, and it is probing contracts that were awarded between May 2011 and May 2019. Now, at the last sitting this weekend, the head of the Project Task Force Projects Committee, which for some strange reason replaced the State Tenders Board, was given evidence, and he said that he was unaware that projects he had signed for in his capacity as chairman of the task force were not signed by the contractors, and the money was awarded to them. What they were paid, they were mobilized, and they didn't do the work. Now, it's a very sad story, and it speaks to what was going on under the last administration, that they disregarded due process, due procedure, and did what they liked. Now, in his evidence, there was a road that was awarded for 2.4 billion. 2 or 3 weeks later, it's changed to 3.6 billion. And he couldn't explain in his capacity as the chairman of the Task Force Project Committee why that happened. Two ministries were supposed to have a secretariat built for them. 650 million naira was paid to the contractor. They can't find the building, they can't find the contractor, they can't find the money. This is ridiculous.
And no signature.
Yes, and contractors were paid, no signed agreement. So on what basis were you going to hold them accountable in the event of a default by them? So once again, this points out the issues we need to face as we struggle and we continue to build institutions that will stand the test of time.
Who will fall for this? Like, not fall for this. I mean, we're all falling for
Okay,
this.
so
But who's going to
in an ideal situation, the previous governor should be called to explain. The commissioner of finance should be called to explain. Cheta, in an ideal situation. Ideal situation.
Yeah.
Even the contractors, and from Imo, yes, even the contractors should be held accountable. But this is Nigeria, and we're still struggling to build those institutions. So we wait and see with bated breath whether anyone will be held accountable for what has happened.
Tunde, are you going to hold your breath for this?
No.
Okay. The Nigerian Communications Commission deactivated several SIM cards, 2.2 million, in its. They made this indication some months ago, made it again recently, saying that the reasons really is for improper registration. Seeing the large sum or number of SIM cards have been deregistered, what are your thoughts on this story?
Okay, I mean, first thoughts is the reason why this is making national headlines is the telecom sector is a decent portion of our economy, I guess. Maybe if I'm not mistaken, about 8%, which is why deactivating SIMs or activating the number of SIMs is important. The reasons are well known. We've have strict rules around SIM reg, because we want to be able to tie numbers to individuals for a bunch of reasons, primarily around security. Like if you trace a number, in the case of in the instance or if a crime has occurred. We also know numbers are an integral tool, especially in kidnapping, cases of abduction, and being able to trace those numbers are integral. So many things. All of this is centered around national security, right? And we didn't have the fact that telcos were not sticking to the rules. Wasn't highlighted as much until insecurity really spiked. With the spike of insecurity, everyone is sort of aligned and pushing that this comes down, and hence NCC was able to instruct the deactivation of 2.2 SIM card models. Everyone should stick to the rules. There are rules and regulations around registering.
It's a good move.
It's a good move. It can be a bit difficult getting a SIM in Nigeria, especially if you're here for a few days on business or I think that, but maybe there should be categories for that as well.
Thank you. I should think so too. Cheta, the TCN blames power generation shortage on low gas supply. I haven't had lights in days. Have you? Light? Do you have light?
Yeah, lights.
That's true.
Lights have been great. Oh,
I
you
just
guys
remember
on that.
exactly.
You guys on
That's
that.
like the
It's
so much
on that
light.
favored nation. Something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Elite.
Well
I'm
done.
looking at you with pride. I'm looking at you with pity.
Okay.
Anyway, the Mrs. Ndidimba, the spokesman for what they called it for one of the for TCN said that there's this gas shortage for the gas plants are generating 0 megawatts, all of that. The national grid is not in great shape. I don't think there's anybody who will deny that. But the thing is, I read Mrs. Mba's statements because she made the statements yesterday. I read it in 3 different media, and there was no word on what is the exact cause of the gas supply constraints. Just said that there's a constraint and Sapele, Oloronshogo, Ihofo, and Azura are not generating anything, and then that the other gas stations are generating reduced capacity. I think that it's one of our problems. What is causing it? Were gas facilities vandalized, or is it just a case of poor maintenance? Because if it's they say for sake of information, so it take 10 days to do the maintenance. The 10 days started counting from Friday. So is it poor maintenance that caused it, or is it that facilities were vandalized? You see, if it's the latter, that it was poor maintenance, we have to ask questions as in, how can we let facilities deteriorate to such a point that 4 gas plants will not even will not even be able to generate any power? If it is vandalization, then we now have to start asking, is it that people are already, as in the fragile piece in Niger Delta, is it falling to pieces? Asking these questions, getting the answers to them will help. It will actually help us to know what to do. You don't just tell us this thing. Anyway, having said all of that, I'll reiterate that the bigger problem in Nigeria's whole power infrastructure is not even this generation. It remains transmission. We have an installed generation capacity of 12 gigawatts. The national grids can only transmit at best 5 gigawatts. So we're essentially throwing 7 gigawatts away. 7, the last time I checked, is greater than 5. What are we doing to improve the transmission infrastructure? We see all this talk about building new generating plants and all of that, and then we see the government haranguing the discos for not distributing power. He's saying, Uncle, I can hear you.
Okay, so just to shed some light, one part of reason for the gas low supply is the fact that Seplat's plant has been shut down for 2 weeks for turnaround maintenance. And then with regards to the issue of transmission, I am aware that Siemens is working behind the scenes to revamp Nigeria's transmission corridor and ensure that the 7 gigawatts that is lost is wheeled back into the system so that it can be transmitted. And they're looking to achieve 80% by the end of April.
Mm.
So there's work going on behind the
Well,
scenes.
So
we're
while all
always-
this work is going on behind the scenes, how do we have light now?
Good question. And they're
He's
always
just
working
said-
behind the
he's
scenes
just-
to maintain
He
the,
just said wait until April. April is
it's around the corner. Yeah.
April is 21
One
days.
days away.
So-
So we'll see.
I'm going to keep
Don't
experiencing
buy
this
face
till
and
then.
put
No, you see, the part.
And
But
we
it's
keep-
true, I've had all
why do we?
sports-
You know the thing that I find the most disappointing is that everything you said is about trying to maintain a dead and decaying system that's insufficient
About
anyway.
raising the capacity
What
of the
about raising
system.
the capacity of the system to the levels that are required? We're talking about it's less than a fraction of what we need.
I read electrical engineering university. My hands up here. I haven't practiced for this is 2020, so I've not practiced for about 15 years. But if memory serves me correct, just wheeling it back can create a major overload that can actually crash the system.
Mhm.
We need to expand capacity.
They're also doing that. Trust me.
Okay,
Okay.
and they will finish by April.
Okay.
80%.
capacity.
80%.
80%.
Yes, because it goes
Siemens
beyond
signed
transmission.
Siemens signed
Capacity
the
that
deal
was
in
built.
when?
Capacity that was built.
Last
for
year.
the-
Sorry, forgive me for being cynical, but
Yes.
I've learned in this country that
Okay.
you are best served by being cynical.
Capacity that was built for the population in 1970.
And then she's now coming to take his photograph because she's saying something controversial.
All right, let's let's get to the messages. We have a couple. Francis from Yaba reacted to the story about the contract scam in Imo State. He said the sad thing about that scam under Okorocha is the fact that nothing will come out of the probe. Reason being that following the swearing in of the new governor, Okorocha, who under whose tenure these atrocities were perpetrated, has made up with, with the new governor. Vincent says, please let there be consequences for any bad behavior. It amazes me and every citizen of this country that TCN is still giving us this flimsy excuse that light outages being experienced in the country are due to gas shortage. When will power companies in Nigeria be proactive to issues concerning power? Our national grid is in a bad shape. It's a shame. And he reacts to the SIM card thing. He said the activation of not properly registered SIM cards, a welcome development. Criminals and terrorists have been using these lines to perpetrate crimes. Please, rules about SIM cards should be observed strictly. And Salam says shale oil companies can only break even at $50 per barrel. Maybe the Saudis are fighting strategically to run the American boys out of system.
It's Russia,
It's a-
actually.
Yeah, but it's a mixture of things. It's the COVID
COVID has a part to
a
play.
part to play.
Yes.
But then so it's everything has come together to form a perfect storm.
Okay.
Both the Russians and the Saudis have a foreign reserve cover for at least 2 years.
You know, they're the big boys at the table. We're the ones, we don't have trousers. We're the ones wearing shorts or maybe rolling tires and pants on the side. We're not at the,
We don't
we're not
even
at the
have
table.
shorts.
We're not at the table.
We
We're
don't
not
even
at
have
the
shorts and our pants is torn.
Open up trousers. Eh? All right, Cheta, let's come back to this story. It's the C. Pardon me. I'll take you up on this one. Guardian reports that the federal government taxed Syrup on list of ex-governors, others allegedly collecting double pay. So it's a reply. You're accusing me of something, and I accuse you back. It's okay. Provide the details. That's pretty much summarizes the story. But what are your thoughts?
Okay, so what happened was sometime last year, the Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, approached the Federal High Court seeking an order of court compelling the federal government to challenge the validity of various pensions laws enacted by the state and to recover all sums of monies paid to former governors who were now serving in National Assembly, specifically the Senate. The Federal High Court granted the request, and SERAP, in a letter to the Attorney General, asked him to comply with the said order of court. He then requests, in his reply, the Attorney General requested that SERAP provide him a list of all the individuals affected by this order, and he would do the needful. Now,
Sorry, it was the needful.
the needful now would be to go to court and challenge the validity of the pensions laws of the various states.
All right.
Now, whether that will really happen is a completely different conversation. But it's interesting that SERAP has agreed to furnish him with a list, and they've expressed their hope, which for me is a bit in the air, that he will do the needful. So we wait to see whether the Attorney General will really proceed to challenge the validity of those pensions laws. Because it's interesting, it's something that the country needs to resolve, that can states validly enact such laws where former governors go into the Senate, collect salaries as senators and continue to collect pensions as former governors, especially in the current economic climate.
Cheta, in 30 seconds, can you go through the story for us? 2.9 billion naira car loan. When I saw the figure, I had to go back to look at the.
There's nothing to go through. The Bayelsa State House of Assembly has approved the facility of 2.9 billion naira so that the new state governor can buy cars. I mean, it just goes to show the kind of, it is particularly disappointing by Nwaeze because he just landed this governorship on his lap. I mean, you could say that Providence gave him an opportunity to better the lot of Bayelsans, but instead he has done, I mean, to buy cars. That's the most unproductive thing that you can think of. Did he trek from government house in Yenagoa? Because he made this statement in Lagos.
Yes.
Did he trek from government house in Yenagoa to the airport in Port Harcourt to fly to Lagos? No, he has a car. He went in a convoy. His convoy consists of 16 cars. So they are cars. All of his principal officers that they are going to do 2.9 billion naira to buy loans, to buy cars for, they all have vehicles. So what is this madness of every year you must buy a new car? I said, what is wrong with us?
That's a good question. Well, thank you, Cheta. Thank you, Tunde. Thank you, Mr. C. Next, let's discuss sports inside the locker room. Stay with us.
The headlines, the stories, the news.
It's my
So it is the
colleague.
baritone. It's
He's a
also
clown.
from already. Correct.
All right. No, it's my colleague. He said that he was going to send a message and that they should read it out. I said, you're not well.
Oh, wow. 2.9 billion, Sha. Hey, that's money.